I am sorry, sir. Your party left about 20 minutes ago.
The words hit Ethan Brooks like a punch to the chest. He stood there in the entrance of the Rosewood, one of Chicago's most elegant restaurants, his work boots leaving wet prints across the polished marble floor. Snow clung to his jacket, melting in small rivulets down the worn fabric. His breath was still ragged from running the last 3 blocks from where he had finally found parking. 47 minutes late. He had known, somewhere in the back of his mind, that this was how it would end. The blizzard had come down hard all evening, and his shift at the warehouse had run 3 hours over because 2 guys called in sick and the holiday shipments could not wait. By the time he had clocked out, checked his phone, and realized the time, his heart had dropped into his stomach. He had driven like a madman through the snow-covered streets, his old pickup truck fishtailing at every turn. He had parked illegally, run through the bitter cold, and burst through these doors with the desperate hope of a man who already knew the truth. Too late. Always too late. The hostess looked at him with practiced sympathy, the kind reserved for people who clearly did not belong. Her eyes traveled from his scuffed boots to his faded jacket, to the snowflakes melting in his brown hair. Everything about him screamed warehouse worker, not fine dining patron. "I understand," Ethan managed, his voice flat. "Thank you." He turned toward the exit, fishing his phone from his pocket with numb fingers. The screen lit up and he saw 3 missed calls from an unknown number and 2 texts. The first text from 2 hours ago read, "I am here. Table in the back. Take your time." The second, from 40 minutes ago, read, "Still waiting. Hope everything is okay." She had waited. She had actually waited for him, and he had still managed to miss her. Ethan stepped back toward the entrance, away from the warmth of the restaurant and closer to the cold that felt more appropriate for this moment. He pulled up his daughter's contact and hit the video call button. He needed to hear her voice, needed to remember why any of this mattered. The phone rang twice before Lily's face appeared on the screen. She was 7 years old, with blonde curly hair that was always escaping whatever style Mrs. Patterson attempted, and eyes that saw far too much for someone her age. Right now, those eyes were heavy with sleep, and she was wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with the little horses all over them. "Daddy?" Her voice was thick and drowsy. "You are not home yet." Ethan forced a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Hey, sweetheart, yeah, I am on my way now. Just wanted to check on you. Did you have fun on your date?" The question was innocent, curious. Mrs. Patterson must have told her where he had gone tonight. Ethan swallowed hard. He thought about lying, about protecting her from his disappointment the way he always did. But the smile on his face was already straining, and he could not quite make the words come out. "It went great, baby," he said instead, keeping his voice light. "I will tell you all about it tomorrow, okay?" Lily yawned, her whole face scrunching up in that adorable way that never failed to make his heart squeeze. "Okay, Daddy. Will you check for monsters when you get home?" "Always. And will you sing the song, the one Mommy used to sing?" His throat tightened. 5 years, and it still caught him off guard sometimes. "Yeah, baby. I will sing the song. Love you, Daddy. Love you more." The screen went dark and Ethan stood there for a moment, letting the warmth of her voice thaw something that had frozen inside him. This was why he worked double shifts. This was why he had even agreed to this ridiculous blind date in the first place. Lily deserved a complete family, deserved more than a father who was always exhausted and a mother who existed only in photographs and lullabies. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and turned toward the door. Time to go home. Time to sing the song and check for monsters and pretend that everything was fine. "Sir?" Ethan paused, his hand already on the brass door handle. "Sir, excuse me." He turned to find the restaurant manager approaching, a distinguished man in his 50s with silver hair and an immaculate suit. His voice was low and discreet when he spoke. "There is someone still waiting for you." Ethan stared at him. He was certain he had misheard. The hostess had just told him his date was gone. "I am sorry?" "In the back," the manager said, gesturing toward a section of the restaurant Ethan had not noticed before. "The private alcove. She has been there all evening. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel." Ethan's heart did something strange in his chest as he followed the manager deeper into the restaurant. Something between hope and confusion, between disbelief and a feeling he could not quite name. The main dining room was elegant enough, with its white tablecloths and crystal wine glasses, but the section they were heading toward was something else entirely. Separated from the rest of the space by a lattice partition draped in climbing ivy, it was bathed in soft amber light from a small chandelier overhead. The effect was intimate, private, like stepping into another world. And then he saw her. She sat alone at a table meant for two, positioned in the corner where she could see the entire room while remaining partially hidden from view. Her posture was relaxed, one hand resting lightly on the white tablecloth, the other holding a wine glass that appeared untouched. She was stunning. Long blonde hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders, catching the candlelight and seeming to glow. She wore a red silk dress that hugged her figure elegantly, the fabric catching the light with every subtle movement. It was tasteful but captivating, the kind of dress that made you look twice without being able to explain why. Simple pearl earrings adorned her ears, and her makeup was minimal, letting her natural beauty speak for itself. When she looked up and met his eyes, she smiled. And it was the kind of smile that made Ethan forget, just for a moment, that he was still wearing his work boots, that his jacket smelled faintly of cardboard and sweat, that he was 47 minutes late for a date he had almost given up on. "You came," she said simply. Her voice was warm, unhurried, as though she had all the time in the world. As though she had not been sitting here alone for nearly an hour while the rest of the restaurant filled and emptied around her. Ethan stood there, frozen somewhere between the table and the rest of his life. His mind was racing, trying to reconcile this elegant woman with the blind date he had been expecting. When his coworker had set him up, he had imagined someone ordinary, someone like him, maybe a single mother, a nurse, a teacher, someone who understood what it meant to stretch a paycheck and still come up short. He had not imagined someone like this. "I am sorry," he managed finally, his voice rough. "I am so sorry. My shift ran late, and then the snow, and I could not find parking, and I asked her to say that." Ethan blinked. "What?" The woman tilted her head slightly, studying him with eyes that seemed to see everything. "The hostess. I asked her to tell you I had left. I wanted to see what you would do, what I would do, whether you would leave." She gestured to the chair across from her, an invitation. "Most people would have. You looked like you were about to. But then you called your daughter." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. She had been watching. This whole time she had been watching him think he had been stood up, watching him spiral into disappointment, watching him... "You smiled for her," the woman continued, her voice softer now. "Even though I could see from here that you were disappointed, even though your shoulders dropped and your whole body sagged when the hostess said I was gone. You still smiled for your little girl? You still made sure she did not see your pain?" She paused and something shifted in her expression. Something that looked almost like recognition, like she had found what she was looking for. "That told me more about you than an hour of conversation would have." Ethan lowered himself into the chair slowly, as though afraid it might disappear beneath him. His mind was still trying to catch up, still trying to process what was happening. "I do not understand," he said. "You watched me think I had been stood up and you just sat here? I watched you run past the window." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Literally run through the snow in those boots, checking your phone every few seconds. You were 40 minutes late and you still came. You still tried." She lifted her wine glass finally and took a small sip, her eyes never leaving his face. "Do you know how rare that is? Most of the men I have met would have sent a text from the car. 'Traffic is bad, let us reschedule,' or they would have shown up late and acted like I should be grateful they came at all. I am not most men," Ethan said, and then immediately felt foolish for saying it. But the woman only smiled again, wider this time. "No," she agreed. "I am starting to think you are not." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The restaurant hummed softly around them, the clink of silverware and the murmur of other conversations creating a cocoon of privacy. Ethan looked at the woman across from him and tried to reconcile what he was seeing with what he had expected. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was something in her eyes, something knowing and curious and maybe a little bit sad. She looked at him like she was seeing past his worn jacket and tired face, seeing something underneath that even he was not sure was there anymore. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said finally. "Anything. Why the test? Why not just wait and see if I showed up like a normal person?" She considered the question, turning her wine glass slowly in her hands. "Because I have been on too many dates where the man showed up and I still felt alone. I have learned that presence and punctuality are not the same thing. Someone can be sitting right across from you and still be 1,000 miles away. And watching me think I had been rejected told you I would not be like that? Watching you call your daughter told me that." She set down her glass. "A man who thinks his evening is ruined, who is embarrassed and disappointed and probably exhausted, and his first instinct is still to check on his child, to smile for her so she does not worry, that is not a man who phones it in. That is a man who shows up, really shows up, for the people he loves." Ethan felt something shift in his chest, some knot loosening that he had not realized was there. When was the last time someone had seen him? Not looked at him, not assessed his worth based on his job or his bank account, but actually seen him? "The waiter is going to come back soon," the woman said. "And when he does, you are going to see the prices on the menu and wonder why I chose this place. You are going to do math in your head about what you can afford and what you cannot. You are going to feel out of place and wonder what you are doing here." Ethan's face heated. She had read him like a book. "So before any of that happens," she continued, "I want you to know something. I did not choose this restaurant to impress you or to make you uncomfortable. I chose it because they know me here. They know not to make a fuss, not to take photographs, not to whisper when I walk in. I needed somewhere private, somewhere I would not be recognized." Recognized? The woman's eyes held his, steady and clear. "My name is Victoria Langford. You might have heard of Langford Technologies." Ethan had. Everyone had. Langford Technologies was one of the largest tech conglomerates in the country, a name that appeared on buildings and products and the covers of business magazines. He had seen headlines about the company, about innovations and acquisitions and stock prices, and Victoria Langford was its CEO, its billionaire CEO. Ethan felt the floor shift beneath him, felt the walls of the restaurant press inward. This could not be right. There had been some kind of mistake. "I think," he said slowly, "there has been a misunderstanding." "There has not." Victoria's voice was gentle but firm. "I know exactly who you are, Ethan. A warehouse supervisor. Single father. You have been raising your daughter alone for 5 years, since your wife passed. You work double shifts to make ends meet, and you have not been on a date in almost 3 years." She must have seen something in his face, some flash of vulnerability or fear, because she added quickly, "I am not saying this to embarrass you. I am saying it because I want you to understand. I knew all of this before I agreed to meet you, and I still came." Ethan's hands were flat on the table, steadying him. "Why?" The word came out rougher than he intended, almost accusatory. "Because our mutual friend thought we might understand each other," Victoria said. "Because she thought we might both be lonely in ways that money cannot fix and busy schedules cannot excuse." She paused, something flickering behind her eyes. "Because I am tired of being seen as a prize to be won or a problem to be solved, and I hoped, that you might see me as something else." "Something else?" "A person." The word was soft, almost fragile. Just a person. The silence stretched between them, delicate as spun glass. Ethan looked at this woman, this stranger who somehow knew the shape of his life, and he did not know what to say. He did not know if there was anything to say. All he knew was that the ground had shifted, and he was not sure yet whether he was falling or finally finding his footing. The waiter appeared. His approach silent and practiced, and placed 2 leather-bound menus between them. Ethan glanced down at the folder but did not open it. His mind was still catching up, still processing the revelation that had just upended everything he thought he knew about this evening. Across from him, Victoria opened her menu with the casual ease of someone who had never worried about prices, never scanned a list of dishes and done quick math in her head. The contrast made something tighten in Ethan's chest. "The salmon is excellent here," she offered, her tone light. "But order whatever you would like, please." He forced himself to open the menu. The numbers swam before his eyes. $45 for an appetizer, $85 for an entree. He could feed Lily for a week on what a single dish cost here. "I am not very hungry," he said, the lie coming easily, Maybe just coffee. Victoria studied him for a moment, and he could see her working through what he had said and what he actually meant. Then she closed her own menu. 2 coffees, she told the waiter without looking away from Ethan. And give us some time. When they were alone again, she leaned forward slightly. Tell me about your daughter. The question caught him off guard. He had expected her to talk about business, about the life she led in boardrooms and penthouses, but she wanted to know about Lily. She is 7, he said slowly. Turns 8 in March. She is... He stopped, searching for words that could capture his daughter. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. Smart as a whip. Stubborn too. Gets that from her mother. What is she like when she is not being stubborn? A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth despite himself. She loves animals, wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. Last month, she found a bird with a broken wing in the backyard and insisted we take it to the wildlife center. Cried the whole way there, but she still did it. Said the bird deserved a chance. She sounds remarkable. And the way Victoria said it, without condescension, without the patronizing warmth some people used when talking about other people's children, made Ethan look at her differently. She is, he agreed. She is the reason I... He stopped again, unsure how much to share. The reason you work double shifts, Victoria finished gently. The reason you have not dated in 3 years. The reason you ran through the snow tonight, even though you were already 40 minutes late and probably exhausted. Yeah. The word was barely a whisper. Their coffee arrived. 2 small cups that probably cost more than Ethan made in an hour. He wrapped his hands around his, grateful for something to hold. Victoria did the same, and for a moment they simply sat there. 2 strangers sharing warmth in a cold world. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. Anything. Why a blind date? You could have anyone. You could... I do not know. There must be 1,000 men who would line up for the chance to take you to dinner. There are, she said, and there was no arrogance in her voice, only weariness. That is exactly the problem. They see the name, the company, the money. They do not see me. They see what I can do for them, what doors I can open, what lifestyle I can provide. She turned her coffee cup slowly in her hands. I have been on dates where men have pitched me business ideas before the appetizers arrived. I have had men propose marriage on the second date and then ask for stock options as a wedding gift. I have been photographed and analyzed and reduced to a number on a Forbes list. She looked up at him, and there was something raw in her eyes, something vulnerable that made the billionaire CEO look suddenly achingly human. I wanted one evening where none of that mattered, where I was just a woman meeting a man for coffee, where the only question that mattered was whether we might actually like each other. Ethan absorbed this slowly. He had spent so long feeling inadequate, feeling like he was not enough for someone like her. It had not occurred to him that she might be feeling something similar. That wealth and success could be their own kind of prison. That sounds lonely, he said quietly. It is. 2 words. Simple and devastating. The waiter came and went, refilling their coffees. Outside, the snow continued to fall, painting the city in white. Inside their quiet corner, time seemed to slow down. Can I ask about your wife? Victoria said softly. If it is not too painful. Ethan was quiet for a moment, staring into his coffee cup like it held answers. Sarah, he said finally. Her name was Sarah. She died 5 years ago. Cancer. They caught it late, and by the time we knew, he trailed off, his jaw tightening. How long did you have? 8 months. From diagnosis to... He could not say the word. 8 months? That must have been devastating. It was. He looked up at her, his eyes red-rimmed but steady. Lily was only 2. She does not really remember her. I have to show her pictures, tell her stories, try to keep Sarah alive for her through words and photographs, but it is not the same. It will never be the same. Victoria reached across the table, her fingers brushing his hand lightly. I lost both my parents by the time I was 28. Ethan's eyes widened. I am sorry, I did not know. My father had a heart attack when I was 26, right after I took over the company. I was supposed to be proving myself to the board, showing them I could handle the responsibility, and instead I was planning a funeral and trying not to fall apart in front of people who were waiting for me to fail. She pulled her hand back, wrapping it around her coffee cup again. My mother lasted 2 more years. Cancer. like your wife. I watched her fade away, piece by piece, while trying to run a company that was depending on me. And when she was gone, I realized I had learned how to manage boardrooms before I had learned how to grieve. Do you have any siblings? Anyone to share the burden? Victoria shook her head. Only child. There is no one. I have maybe 2 real friends, people I trust enough to call at 2 in the morning when I cannot sleep. Everyone else is an acquaintance or an employee or someone who wants something from me. That is a lot of alone. Yes, her laugh was soft and bitter. I go home every night to a penthouse with a view of the entire city. 60 floors up, floor-to-ceiling windows, every luxury you could imagine. And I feel more alone there than I did when I lived in a 400-square-foot studio apartment in college. Ethan thought about his own small house, the peeling paint, the flickering porch light, the way Lily's laughter could fill every corner and make it feel like a castle. After Sarah died, he said slowly, I used to cry in the shower. Every night after Lily was asleep, I would stand there under the water until it ran cold, just letting it all out, because I could not let her see. I could not let her know how broken I was. You are not broken. Neither are you. Their eyes met across the table and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe? Understanding? The quiet acknowledgement of 2 people who had been shaped by loss and learned to carry it alone. I still sing to her, Ethan continued, his voice dropping. The lullaby Sarah used to sing. Every night. Lily asks for it, and I sing it even though my voice cracks sometimes. Even though it hurts. Why do you keep doing it? Because it is how I keep Sarah alive for her. It is how I make sure she knows her mother loved her, even if she cannot remember it. Victoria's eyes glistened. That is beautiful. It is survival, Ethan said simply. You do what you have to do. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, letting the weight of their shared confessions settle around them like a blanket. Can I tell you something? Victoria asked. Of course. When Caroline first suggested this blind date, I almost said no. I have been on so many bad dates, dealt with so many men who saw me as a means to an end. I told myself I was done trying. What changed your mind? She told me about how you had been raising your daughter alone, working double shifts, never complaining, about how you still coached her soccer team on weekends, even though you were exhausted, about how you had turned down a promotion because it would have meant longer hours away from her. Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. He had not known anyone was paying that much attention. She said you were the most devoted father she had ever seen, Victoria continued. And then she said something that stuck with me. She said we both needed the same thing, you and I. A chance to start over. A chance to be seen for who we really are, not what we represent. And who are you? Ethan asked. Really? Victoria considered the question, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I am someone who inherited a company when I was 26 and has spent the last 10 years trying to prove I deserved it. I am someone who lost both parents before I turned 30 and never really processed what that meant, us. I am someone who has 100 acquaintances and maybe 2 real friends. She met his eyes. I am someone who goes home every night to a beautiful apartment and feels more alone than when I had nothing. I am someone who has been waiting a very long time to feel the way I felt tonight, watching you make your daughter laugh in a phone call. How was that? Hopeful, she said, for the first time in longer than I can remember. The waiter came and went, refilling their coffees. A few patrons glanced their way, but no one approached. Outside, the snow continued to fall, painting the city in white. Inside their quiet corner, time seemed to slow down. The bubble of privacy burst with the return of the waiter, but this time his manner had changed. Ethan noticed it immediately, the subtle difference. The way the man's eyes lingered on Victoria with recognition, the way his posture shifted from professional to reverent. Someone had told him. Someone in the kitchen or at the host stand had connected the dots. And now the secret was out. Miss Langford, the waiter said, his voice hushed and almost awed. The chef would be honored to prepare a special tasting menu for you and your guests this evening. Compliments of the house, of course. Victoria's expression did not change, but Ethan saw something flicker behind her eyes. Disappointment, maybe? Or resignation? Like this was a scene she had played out 100 times before. That will not be necessary, she said, her voice polite but firm. Just the coffee is fine. The waiter bowed slightly and retreated, but the damage was done. Ethan felt himself withdrawing, felt the invisible wall rising between them. This was who she was. This was her world, a world where chefs offered free meals and waiters spoke in reverent tones, a world where everyone wanted something from her. He did not belong here. He had been foolish to think he might. I should go, he said, reaching for his jacket. Victoria's hand shot out, not quite touching his arm, but close enough to stop him. Ethan, please. You are very kind, he said, and he meant it. This has been… I do not know what this has been. But we both know this does not make sense. You and me. We are from different planets. We are from the same planet, she said quietly. We just live in different zip codes. He almost smiled at that. Almost. Different galaxies, more like. So that is it? There was no accusation in her voice, only curiosity, maybe a hint of hurt. You are going to leave because a waiter recognized me? I am going to leave because I have a daughter waiting for me at home, Ethan said. And because tomorrow I have to go back to work at 5 in the morning, and the day after that, and the day after that. And because every time I look around this restaurant, I am reminded of all the things I cannot give her. All the things I will never be able to give anyone. Ethan, I cannot afford to order food at this restaurant, he said bluntly. I can barely afford the coffee. I drive a 12-year-old truck with rust on the wheel wells and a heater that only works when it feels like it. I live in a 2-bedroom bungalow with peeling paint and a porch light that flickers when the wind blows too hard. That is my life. That is who I am. Victoria's voice was soft now, barely above a whisper. I do not need you to give me anything. But he was already standing, already pulling on his jacket, already retreating toward the safety of the cold night outside. Better to end it now, before he started hoping for something he could never have. Thank you for waiting for me, he said. I mean that. But this, whatever this was, it was a mistake. He walked away before she could respond, his footsteps echoing against the marble floor. He did not look back. If he had, he would have seen her sitting alone at the table, her coffee growing cold, her eyes fixed on the door through which he had disappeared. He would have seen the way she pressed her hand briefly to her chest, as though touching something tender, but he did not look back. He pushed through the doors and stepped into the snow, and he told himself it was better this way. Better to end it now, before his heart got any more ideas about second chances. The parking lot was nearly empty when Ethan reached his truck. Snow had piled up on the windshield while he was inside, and he brushed it off with his bare hands, his fingers quickly going numb. The cold was brutal, the kind that seeped into your bones and stayed there. He climbed into the cab and turned the key, but instead of putting the truck in gear, he just sat there, staring at the snow falling through the amber glow of the parking lot lights, trying to convince himself he had done the right thing. His phone buzzed, Lily again. He swiped to answer the video call, and there she was, his whole world compressed into a 4-inch screen. She was still in her horse pajamas, and her eyes were fighting to stay open. Daddy, she said, her voice thick with sleep, you are not home yet. I know, sweetheart, I am sorry, I will be there soon. Did you have fun on your date? The question was innocent, curious. He thought about lying again, it would be easier. But Lily had a way of seeing through him, the same way her mother used to. It was complicated, he said instead. Good complicated or bad complicated? He laughed despite himself. I do not know yet. Ask me tomorrow. Okay. She yawned, her whole face scrunching up. Will you check for monsters when you get home? Always. And will you sing the song? The one Mommy used to sing? His throat tightened. Yeah, baby. I will sing the song. Love you, Daddy. Love you more. He ended the call and sat there for another moment, letting the warmth of her voice thaw something that had frozen inside him. He was so lost in thought that he almost did not notice the figure standing at the edge of the parking lot. Almost. Victoria was there, wrapped in a coat that probably cost more than his truck, her breath making small clouds in the frigid air. She must have followed him out. She must have been standing there the whole time, watching him make faces at his phone, watching him be a father instead of whatever he had been trying to be inside that restaurant. Their eyes met across the snow-covered pavement, and something passed between them, something wordless and fragile and entirely unexpected. You make funny faces, she said, when you talk to her. Ethan felt heat rise to his cheeks despite the cold. She likes them. Makes her laugh. I could tell. Victoria took a step closer. You transformed in there. You were guarded. Careful. Out here, talking to her, you were someone else entirely. I was being her dad. Yes. Another step. You were being real. They stood there in the falling snow, two people from different worlds, connected by something neither of them could name. The silence stretched between them, but it was not uncomfortable. It was weighted, expectant. I should go, Ethan said, but he did not move. You said that already. I know. And yet here you are. Here I am. Victoria's eyes searched his face. Can I ask you something? You seem to do that a lot. It is how I learn things. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. Why do you think you are not good enough? The question hit him like a physical blow. I do not. You do. I can see it in your eyes. Every time you look around that restaurant, every time you looked at the menu, every time the waiter came to our table. You are measuring yourself against some standard and finding yourself lacking. I am not. You are a good father, she interrupted gently. I know that from watching you for 5 minutes. You work hard. You show up. You sing lullabies even when it hurts. That does not mean... What could possibly mean more than that? Ethan was silent. He did not have an answer. I have met wealthy men who ignore their children, Victoria continued, who hand them off to nannies and tutors and check in once a week if their schedules allow. I have met successful men who see their families as obligations rather than gifts. I have met powerful men who would never ever run through a snowstorm because they had promised to be somewhere. She took another step closer, close enough now that he could see the snowflakes catching in her hair. You are not those men, Ethan. You are something else entirely. And I spent the whole evening trying to figure out if you were real, if anyone could actually be as genuine as you seem to be. I am not anything special. You are extraordinary. Her voice cracked just slightly. And I think you are the first person in a decade who looked at me like I was just a woman. Not a portfolio, not a conquest, not a means to an end. Just a person. That is because that is all I see, Ethan said. When I look at you, I do not see billions of dollars or magazine covers or whatever else the world sees. I see someone who waited in a restaurant for almost an hour because she was hoping for something real. I see someone who is lonely, even though she has everything. I do not have everything. Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I do not have anything that matters. Neither do I, but maybe... He stopped himself. Maybe what? Maybe we could figure it out together. The words hung in the cold air between them. Victoria stared at him like he had just offered her something precious, something she had never expected to receive. Do you mean that? I do not say things I do not mean. I do not have the energy to waste on games. She laughed then, a surprise sound that seemed to catch even her off guard. No, I do not suppose you do. Have you ever felt like you were not enough for someone? Stay with us to see what happens next. There is a diner about 3 blocks from here, Victoria said. Open 24 hours. They have terrible coffee and wonderful pie. Ethan blinked. You want to go to a diner? I want to sit somewhere that does not make you feel like you have to apologize for existing. I want to drink coffee that costs $2 and eat pie that costs $4. I want to have a conversation without waiters hovering and managers recognizing me. Will people not recognize you there too? Maybe. But it is different in places like that. People are busy with their own lives. They do not care about celebrities and billionaires. They care about getting through their shift and going home to their families. She paused. Kind of like you. They walked the 3 blocks together, the snow falling softly around them. The diner was exactly what Victoria had described. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lighting, laminated menus with coffee stains on the corners. An elderly couple sat in one corner, a truck driver in another, and a group of teenagers crowded around a table in the back, laughing at something on one of their phones. They slid into a booth near the window, and Victoria looked around with an expression of wonder that made Ethan's chest ache. I have missed this, she said softly. Missed what? Bad coffee and fluorescent lighting. Normalcy, anonymity, being somewhere without everyone watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake so they can write about it. A waitress appeared, an older woman with tired eyes and a kind smile. She did not recognize Victoria, did not give them a second glance. Just took their order, 2 coffees and 2 slices of apple pie, and disappeared into the back. "This is nice," Ethan admitted. "It is." Victoria's smile was genuine, reaching her eyes in a way it had not at the fancy restaurant. "When I am with you, I do not feel like Victoria Langford, CEO. I just feel like Victoria. Like the person I used to be before all of this." And they talked for hours. The coffee grew cold and was refilled. The pie was eaten and replaced with more. Outside, the snow kept falling. And inside, 2 strangers became something else. Victoria told him about inheriting the company at 26, about the board members who had wanted her to fail, who had questioned every decision, who had waited for her to make mistakes they could exploit. She told him about the one serious relationship she had had in her 20s, a man she had thought loved her until she discovered he had been selling stories to the tabloids. Ethan told her about Sarah, about how they had met in college, both of them broke and happy, about how they had built a life together on dreams and minimum wage jobs, about how she had laughed at his terrible jokes and made him feel like the luckiest man in the world. The cook changed shifts, the teenagers left. The truck driver finished his meal and headed back to his rig. And still they sat there, talking and listening and slowly, carefully, letting each other in. And then everything changed. A group of young professionals burst through the door, loud and half-drunk from what sounded like a company celebration. At first, they barely glanced at the booth where Ethan and Victoria sat. But then one of them, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper blazer, did a double take. "Holy cow," she said, not bothering to lower her voice. "Is that Victoria Langford?" The effect was immediate. Phones appeared, whispers spread. Ethan watched as the bubble of privacy they had created burst, as curious eyes turned toward their table, as cameras angled in their direction. "We should go," Victoria said quietly. Her expression had not changed, but Ethan could see the way her shoulders had tensed, the way her hands had tightened around her coffee cup. "Yeah," he was already reaching for his wallet. "Is she with that guy?" he heard someone whisper. "Who is he?" "Nobody." "Look at him." The word hit Ethan like a physical blow. He had spent his whole life being nobody. A warehouse worker, a single dad, a man who counted pennies and dreamed small dreams. He had made peace with it, mostly. But hearing it said out loud in that dismissive tone, while cameras clicked and whispers spread, it cracked something open inside him. He stood up abruptly. "I should go." "Ethan, wait." This was a mistake. He could hear the edge in his own voice, the old familiar shame rising up. "I do not belong in your world. I do not know why I thought—" "Ethan." Victoria stood too, blocking his path. Her voice was low, urgent. "Look at me. Please." He did, reluctantly. "I do not care what they think," she said. "I do not care what they say or what they post or how many followers their gossip accounts have. They do not know me. They do not know you. They do not know anything about what is happening here." "What is happening here?" The question came out more vulnerable than he intended. "I do not know yet." Her eyes were steady on his. "But I would like to find out. If you will let me." "You could have anyone," he said. "You said so yourself. 1,000 men would line up." "I do not want 1,000 men." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "I want one man who looks at me the way you looked at your daughter. Like she is the most precious thing in the world. Like nothing else matters. I want someone who runs through snow because he made a promise, even when he knows he is already too late. I want someone who is scared just like me, but shows up anyway." Behind them, the whispers grew louder. The cameras kept clicking. "They are going to write about this," Ethan said. "Tomorrow it will be all over the internet. Billionaire CEO spotted with mystery man at downtown diner. They will dig into my life. They will find out everything. The warehouse job, the apartment, the fact that I could not even afford a real dinner. I know. And that does not bother you?" "What bothers me," Victoria said slowly, "is the idea of walking out of this diner and never seeing you again. What bothers me is the thought that I finally met someone who makes me feel something, and I let him slip away because of what strangers might think." Ethan stood there, caught between the door and her eyes, between escape and something terrifying and new. The noise of the diner faded. The cameras became irrelevant. There was only her, only this moment, only the choice that would shape whatever came next. I am not afraid of being poor, he said quietly. I have been poor my whole life. I am afraid of not being good enough. For Lily, for anyone. You are good enough. Her voice was fierce now, almost angry. You are more than good enough. You are the first person in years who has looked at me like I am a person and not a portfolio. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How precious? They stood there, two people from different worlds, frozen in the harsh light of a 24-hour diner while strangers documented their every move. And slowly, impossibly, Ethan felt the fear begin to loosen its grip. Okay, he said. Okay, I will stay. I do not know what I am agreeing to, but I will stay. Victoria's face transformed. The tension drained from her shoulders and she smiled, not the careful, practiced smile from the restaurant, but something genuine and raw and beautiful. That is all I am asking, she said. One moment at a time. No pressure, no expectations, just this. They did not sit back down. The diner had become hostile territory now, too exposed, too public. Instead, Ethan dropped a few bills on the table, more than the coffee was worth, less than he could afford, and they walked out together into the snow. At the edge of the parking lot, Victoria shivered. Without thinking, Ethan shrugged off his jacket, the same worn jacket he had been embarrassed about all night. The one that smelled like cardboard and hard work, and draped it over her shoulders. It was too big for her, the sleeves hanging past her hands, and she looked almost comically small inside it. But she pulled it close like it was the most precious thing anyone had ever given her. Thank you, she whispered. It is just a jacket. It is not. Her eyes were bright in the streetlight. It is not just a jacket, and you know it. They stood there, two figures in the falling snow, wrapped in something neither of them could name. And then Victoria asked the question that changed everything. If I asked you to have dinner with me again, a real dinner, somewhere private, no pressure, no expectations, would you say yes? Ethan thought about Lily waiting for him at home. He thought about the warehouse, about the double shifts, about the life he had built from the wreckage of his grief. He thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea, all the ways it could go wrong. And then he thought about the way Victoria had looked at him in the parking lot, watching him make faces for Lily. He thought about the way she had sat alone in that restaurant waiting for a man she had never met because she was tired of being seen as a prize. He thought about her laughter in the diner, genuine and warm. He thought about the hope in her eyes, fragile and fierce all at once. Yes, he said. I would say yes. She smiled then, and it was like watching the sunrise. Good, she said. Then it is a date, a real one this time. She reached up and touched his face, her fingers cold against his cheek, and then, slowly, giving him every chance to pull away, she kissed him. It was soft, tentative, the first kiss he had had since Sarah, and for a moment guilt flickered in his chest. But then he felt something else, something that felt almost like permission, like blessing. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. Good night, Ethan Brooks, Victoria whispered. Good night, Victoria Langford. She got into her car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than his annual salary, and he watched her pull out of the parking lot, her taillights disappearing into the snow. Then he was alone. But for the first time in years, alone did not feel so heavy. 1 week later, Ethan found himself standing outside Victoria's penthouse building, wondering how he had gotten here. The lobby alone was bigger than his entire house. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, a doorman who looked at his worn jacket with thinly veiled disdain before Victoria's name opened every door. The elevator ride to the 60th floor took 47 seconds. He counted. Victoria met him at the door wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her feet bare, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no designer dress, just her. You came, she said, echoing her words from that first night. I said I would. I know. She stopped, laughed at herself. I am nervous. Is that not ridiculous? I run a multi-billion-dollar company and I am nervous about a second date. I am nervous too, Ethan admitted. If it helps. It did, apparently. Her smile relaxed into something genuine. The penthouse was everything he had expected and nothing like what he had imagined. Massive, yes. Beautiful, certainly. Floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the entire Chicago skyline. Furniture that probably cost more than his truck. art on the walls that he could not begin to understand. But it was empty, cold, like a showroom, not a home. No photographs on the shelves, no personal touches, no evidence that anyone actually lived here. Victoria caught him looking around. "I know," she said quietly. "It is not very warm, is it?" "It is beautiful, it is impressive, there is a difference." She led him toward the kitchen. "I wanted to cook for you tonight. I thought it would be more intimate than a restaurant." The kitchen was state-of-the-art. Stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, every gadget a professional chef could want. And on the stove, something was smoking. "Oh no." Victoria rushed over, grabbing the pan just as the smoke alarm started shrieking. "No, no, no!" Ethan sprang into action, opening windows, fanning the smoke with a dish towel, while Victoria stabbed at buttons trying to silence the alarm. When the chaos finally subsided, they stood in the middle of her ruined dinner, looking at each other. And then they both started laughing. "I am a terrible cook," Victoria admitted, tears streaming down her face from laughing so hard. "I have never cooked a meal in my life. I do not know what I thought. That it would be romantic? It is the most romantic thing anyone has done for me in years," Ethan said. And he meant it. The fact that you tried, that you wanted to impress me without staff or reservations or any of the things that usually impress people. "We could order pizza?" "Pizza sounds perfect." They sat on the floor of her massive penthouse, eating pizza out of the box, drinking wine that probably cost more than his monthly grocery bill. And they talked. Not about business or money or the things that separated them, but about music and movies and books and childhood memories. Victoria told him about growing up in boarding schools, about being shuttled between parents who loved their work more than each other, about the day she realized she was alone in the world. Ethan told her about Sarah, about how she had made him feel like he could do anything, about how he had almost fallen apart when she died, and how Lily had been the only thing that kept him going. When he finally left well past midnight, Victoria walked him to the elevator. "I had a wonderful time," she said, "despite the fire alarm." "Me too. Despite the fire alarm." "Can we do this again?" "I would like that." The third date was different. Ethan insisted on hosting. He spent 3 days cleaning his small house, trying to see it through her eyes. The peeling paint he could not afford to fix, the furniture that was worn but comfortable, Lily's artwork covering every available surface. When Victoria arrived, she stood in the doorway for a long moment, taking it all in. "This is your home," she said softly. "I know it is not much. This is a home." She stepped inside, her eyes moving from the family photos on the bookshelf to Lily's latest drawings on the refrigerator to Sarah's picture on the mantel. "Your penthouse is beautiful. But this is alive." She touched one of Lily's drawings reverently. A crayon picture of a horse and a girl and a man holding hands. "She drew this? Last week. It is me and her and Snowflake. Snowflake is imaginary. It is perfect." That night, they cooked dinner together. Simple pasta, nothing fancy. They laughed when Ethan accidentally dropped a pot lid. They danced in the kitchen to music from his old radio. They talked about everything and nothing until the small hours of the morning. When Victoria finally left, she turned to him on the porch. "I do not want this to end," she said. "Neither do I. But I need you to know something. I am falling for you, Ethan. And I am terrified." "I am falling for you too," he admitted. "And I am just as terrified." "Then we can be terrified together." She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and Ethan felt something shift inside him. Something that had been frozen for 5 years, slowly beginning to thaw. 3 weeks into their relationship, the moment Ethan had been dreading finally arrived. Lily had been asking questions. Why was Daddy smiling more? Who was he texting? Why did he hum in the kitchen now when he used to be so quiet? He could not avoid it any longer. "There is someone I want you to meet," he told Lily over breakfast. "Her name is Victoria. She is special to me." "Like Mommy was special?" Ethan's heart clenched. "Different special. No one will ever replace Mommy. But Victoria makes me happy and I think you might like her." Lily considered this with the gravity only a 7-year-old could muster. "Does she like horses?" "I do not know. You can ask her." "Okay, she can come over." Victoria arrived that evening more nervous than Ethan had ever seen her. She had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on a simple cashmere sweater and jeans. She wanted to seem approachable, she had explained, not intimidating. In her hands, she carried a gift-wrapped box. For Lily, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I remembered you said she loves horses. Ethan opened the door, and there was Lily standing behind him, her curious eyes taking in this stranger. You are the lady who makes Daddy smile more, Lily announced. Victoria blinked, caught off guard. Yes, I suppose I am. Daddy hardly ever smiled before, Lily continued matter-of-factly. Now he sings in the kitchen. He never used to sing. Lily, Ethan started, his face flushing, but Victoria was smiling, a real smile that reached her eyes. I am glad, she said softly. Your daddy has a lot to smile about. She knelt down to Lily's level and offered the gift. I brought you something. Your daddy told me you love horses. Lily tore into the wrapping with the enthusiasm of a child on Christmas morning. Inside was a stuffed horse, not a cheap toy, but a beautiful, soft creature with a flowing mane and kind embroidered eyes. His name can be Starlight, Lily whispered, hugging it to her chest. Thank you, Miss Victoria. You are welcome, sweetheart. The evening unfolded better than Ethan had dared to hope. They made cookies together, a disaster of flour and sugar and too many chocolate chips, but they were laughing the whole time. Victoria helped Lily with her homework, patient and gentle in a way that made Ethan's heart ache. When Lily wanted to show Victoria her room, Ethan hung back, watching from the doorway as his daughter introduced this stranger to her world. Her collection of horse figurines, her favorite books. The picture of Sarah on her nightstand. Is that your mommy? Victoria asked softly. Yes, Lily's voice was matter-of-fact. She is in heaven. Daddy says she watches me every day. I am sure she does. Victoria's voice was thick. I am sure she is very proud of you. Do you have a mommy? Ethan saw Victoria's breath catch. I did, she said. She is in heaven too, like your mommy. Lily looked at her with those eyes that saw too much. Then maybe our mommies are friends up there. Victoria's composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she pulled Lily into a hug. Maybe they are, sweetheart. Maybe they are. Later, at bedtime, Lily made a request that surprised everyone. Can Miss Victoria read me a story? Victoria looked at Ethan, uncertain. He nodded. She read Good Night Moon with all the character voices making Lily giggle. She tucked the blanket around Lily's shoulders. She brushed the hair from her forehead with a tenderness that made Ethan's throat tight. Miss Victoria? Lily's voice was sleepy. Yes, sweetheart? Will you come back? Victoria looked at Ethan. He nodded again. If your daddy says it is okay. Daddy, say it is okay. It is okay, baby. Lily smiled, her eyes already closing. Good. I like you, Miss Victoria. You make Daddy happy, and you give good hugs. When they left Lily's room, Victoria was still crying. I am sorry, she whispered. I do not know why I... Do not apologize. Ethan took her hands. That was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. She is wonderful, Ethan. She is absolutely wonderful. She likes you. I love her. The words came out before Victoria could stop them. I know that is crazy. I know I just met her. But... It is not crazy, Ethan said. It is not crazy at all. If this story is touching your heart, hit that like button. And tell us in the comments, do you believe in second chances at love? The weeks that followed felt like a dream. Victoria became a regular presence in their lives. Sunday dinners at Ethan's house, Saturday mornings making pancakes. Lily had declared Victoria's pancakes the best in the world, even though they were often lopsided and occasionally burnt. She is just being kind, Victoria said. She is being honest, Ethan replied. Lily does not do polite lies. Victoria learned about their world, the small joys and daily struggles of a single father and his daughter, the excitement of pizza Fridays, the drama of lost homework, the nightly ritual of checking for monsters and singing Sarah's song. And Ethan learned about Victoria's world, the boardroom battles and corporate politics, the constant pressure to prove herself, the loneliness that came with success. I have imposter syndrome, Victoria admitted one night, curled up on Ethan's couch while Lily slept. Every day, I wait for someone to realize I am just pretending. that I do not actually know what I am doing. You run a $1 billion company. I inherited a $1 billion company. There is a difference. My father built it. I just try not to break it. That is not true, and you know it. Sometimes I am not sure what is true anymore. She started showing up with little gifts. Nothing extravagant. She had learned quickly that Ethan's pride would not allow grand gestures but thoughtful things. A new winter coat for Lily. I saw it and thought of her. Groceries that mysteriously appeared when Ethan's fridge was running low. I was at the store anyway. It bothered him sometimes. The imbalance, the fact that she could solve problems with money that he struggled with every day. You have to let me help, Victoria said when he finally voiced his discomfort. Not because you need it, but because I want to. Because that is what people who care about each other do. I have been taking care of myself for a long time. I know. And you have done an amazing job. But letting someone in does not mean you have failed, Ethan. It means you are not alone anymore. The first I love you happened on a random Tuesday evening. They were washing dishes together after dinner. Lily was already in bed, worn out from a day of playing in the snow. The house was quiet, and Victoria was humming softly, something Ethan had noticed she did when she was content. He stopped mid-scrub, a plate still in his hands, and looked at her. She was beautiful in the low light. Not the polished, perfect beauty of magazine covers, but something softer, more real. Her hair was coming loose from her ponytail. There was dish soap on her sweater. And she was humming. I love you, he said. The words came out before he could stop them, before he could second-guess them. Victoria froze, her hands still submerged in the soapy water. I love how you are with Lily, he continued, the words tumbling out now. I love how you make burnt pasta taste like gourmet. I love that you showed up and never stopped showing up. I love that you make me want to be better than I am. Ethan, you do not have to say it back. I just needed you to know. She turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I love you too, she whispered. Both of you. You gave me something I thought I would never have again. What is that? A family. She kissed him then, tasting of dish soap and tears and something sweeter. And Ethan felt something shift inside him, the last frozen piece of his heart finally beginning to thaw. That night, after Victoria left, Ethan sat alone in the living room. Sarah's picture watched him from the bookshelf. I did not expect this, he told her quietly. I did not plan to fall in love again. The house was silent, but he could almost hear her voice, almost feel her presence. She is good, Sarah. She is good to our girl. She makes me want to live again, not just survive. He paused, his throat tight. I hope you would approve. I hope you are happy wherever you are. And I hope you know that no one will ever replace you. But maybe there is room for someone else too. He could have sworn he felt warmth then. A blessing, maybe. Or just his imagination. But he slept better that night than he had in years. 3 months into their relationship, the bubble burst. Ethan woke to his phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. Text messages, missed calls, social media notifications he did not remember signing up for. He grabbed the phone, squinting at the screen in the early morning light, and felt his blood run cold. The headline was splashed across every gossip site. Billionaire CEO's secret romance with blue-collar worker. Someone from the diner that first night must have sold their photos. The images showed Victoria and Ethan in the booth, heads bent together. Victoria in his worn jacket. Victoria kissing him in the snow. The comments were worse than the headlines. Gold digger. She can do so much better. What does she see in him? Poor guy does not know what he is getting into. He is probably after her money. Ethan's hands were shaking as he scrolled through the articles. They had found everything. His warehouse job, his address, his dead wife, his daughter's name, his daughter. They had mentioned Lily by name. The next few days were a nightmare. Paparazzi appeared outside his house. Photographers lurked at the end of his driveway, snapping pictures of him taking out the trash, walking to his truck, picking up the newspaper. At work, his coworkers whispered and stared. His boss made comments. Dating up, huh, Brooks? Think she will buy you a new truck? But the worst part was Lily. She came home from school in tears, her face red and blotchy, her body shaking with sobs. Daddy, she wailed, throwing herself into his arms. The kids at school. They said you were on TV. They said you are a loser who wants Victoria's money. They said, shh, baby, shh. Ethan held her tight, his heart shattering into a million pieces. That is not true. None of that is true. Then why did they say it? He did not have an answer. Victoria was facing her own battles. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. Ethan learned about it through a text message, 3 words that made his stomach drop. Board meeting. Trouble. Later, Victoria told him what had happened. The investors were concerned about company image. The stock price had dropped 3% since the tabloid story broke. One major investor was threatening to pull out entirely. Is this serious or a phase? They had asked her. We need stability. We need to know our CEO is not going to be distracted by him. By a warehouse worker who could not even afford to take her to dinner. I defended you, Victoria said, her voice tired. I told them my personal life was none of their business. And they reminded me that when you run a public company, everything is their business. Ethan lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to Victoria's breathing beside him. She had fallen asleep hours ago, exhausted from the board meeting and the endless phone calls and the constant damage control. But Ethan could not sleep. He kept seeing Lily's face, the tears, the confusion, the hurt. He kept hearing the whispers at work, the comments from his boss, the snickers in the break room. He kept reading the headlines over and over, burned into his brain. Billionaire CEO's secret romance with blue-collar worker. Blue-collar worker. That was what he was. That was all he was. And Victoria, brilliant, beautiful, successful Victoria, was losing everything because of him. The realization settled into his chest like a stone. He was the problem. If he was not in the picture, the tabloids would move on. The stock price would recover, the board would back off. Lily would not be bullied at school. If he just walked away, everyone would be better off. He slipped out of bed carefully, trying not to wake her. But Victoria stirred, her eyes opening in the darkness. Ethan? What is wrong? Nothing. Go back to sleep. You are lying. She sat up, reaching for him. Talk to me. He could not look at her. If he looked at her, he would lose his nerve. I cannot do this anymore. The words hung in the darkness between them. What? Victoria's voice was small. Ethan, what are you talking about? Us, this. I cannot. His voice cracked. Lily came home crying yesterday. Kids at school are bullying her because of me, because of us. Your board is threatening you. The stock price is dropping. Everyone is looking at you like you have lost your mind. I do not care about the stock price. You should. That company is your parents' legacy. It is everything they worked for. And you are putting it at risk for what? For me? He laughed bitterly. I am a warehouse worker, Victoria. I cannot even afford to buy dinner at the restaurants you are used to. I am nobody. Do not say that. It is the truth. He finally looked at her, and the pain in her eyes almost broke him. Almost. I am not worth all this. I am not worth your company, your reputation, your peace of mind. I am just a man who got lucky for a few months, who got to pretend he belonged somewhere he did not. Ethan, please. I love you, he said, and his voice broke on the words. God, I love you so much. That is why I have to do this. That is why I have to let you go. Victoria was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You are running again, just like you did at the restaurant, just like you do every time things get hard. I am protecting you. I do not need protecting. I need you to stay. You have everything to lose. He was crying too now, could not stop it. And I have nothing to offer you. Nothing but problems and debt, and a life that will never measure up to what you deserve. You have everything. She was almost shouting now. You have the only thing I have wanted for 10 years. A home, a family, a life that means something. Do you not understand? I would give up every penny, every stock option, every board meeting for what you have. You do not mean that. I mean it more than I have ever meant anything. They stood there, both of them crying, the darkness pressing in around them. And then Ethan did the hardest thing he had ever done. He kissed her forehead, soft and tender. You will thank me someday, he whispered, and he walked out. Victoria collapsed onto the bed, her sobs echoing through the empty penthouse. She cried until she had nothing left, until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen and her heart felt like it had been torn from her chest. It was the first time she had cried in years. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of going through the motions. Work, Lily, sleep, work, Lily, sleep. Ethan felt like a ghost in his own life. He smiled for Lily. He laughed at her jokes. He sang Sarah's song and checked for monsters and pretended everything was fine. But nothing was fine. He could not eat, could barely sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Victoria's face. The pain in her eyes. The tears on her cheeks. Mrs. Patterson noticed. Of course she did. "You are fading," she said one morning, watching him make Lily's lunch, like a photograph left in the sun. "I am fine. You are lying." He did not have the energy to argue. Lily noticed too. She asked every day, "When is Miss Victoria coming back?" "She is busy, sweetheart." "You are lying." That word again. Everyone could see through him now. "Something happened," Lily said, her eyes too wise for a 7-year-old. "You are sad again, like you were before, like after Mommy died." Ethan's heart cracked a little more. "I am okay, baby. You are not. But that is okay. I still love you." She hugged him then, her small arms around his waist, and Ethan held on like she was the only thing keeping him from drowning. Victoria, meanwhile, was running on fumes. 20-hour days, no sleep, no meals that were not eaten at her desk. She threw herself into work with a ferocity that frightened even her most demanding employees. Caroline came to see her, barging past her assistant with the authority of someone who had known Victoria since she was a child. "You look terrible," Caroline said bluntly. "Thank you. Your support means so much. You are both idiots, you know that? You found something real, something precious. And you let fear win." "He left me," Victoria said flatly. "And you let him. You could have fought harder. You could have." "He did not want to be fought for. He wanted to protect me." "Then show him you do not need protecting. Show him you need him. There is a difference." Victoria was silent. "That man loves you," Caroline continued, softer now. "I have known him for 3 years. I have watched him with Lily. He is not capable of pretending. When he said he loves you, he meant it. I know he meant it." "Then what are you waiting for?" What was she waiting for? Permission, maybe. Proof that this was worth fighting for. She was still thinking about it when her phone rang. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. "Miss Langford?" A small voice. "Familiar. Lily? Miss Victoria?" The child's voice was trembling. "I need to talk to you." "It is an emergency." Victoria's heart stopped. "Lily? Sweetheart, is everything okay? Are you hurt?" "I am not hurt." Lily's voice was small but determined. I needed to ask you something." "Of course, anything." "Did I do something wrong?" Victoria felt like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed. "What? No, baby, why would you think that? Because you stopped coming. And Daddy cries at night when he thinks I'm asleep. And I heard him say your name." Victoria was crying now, tears streaming silently down her face. "You did not do anything wrong, sweetheart, I promise." "Then why did you leave? How do you explain heartbreak to a 7-year-old? How do you explain that sometimes adults make terrible decisions because they are scared?" "Your daddy thought he was protecting me," Victoria said carefully. "He thought I would be happier without him." "That is stupid," Lily said with all the blunt honesty of childhood. Victoria laughed through her tears. "Yeah, it kind of is. Daddy says you are too good for us, but I think he is wrong." "What do you think, sweetheart?" "I think," Lily paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think Daddy is scared. He was scared after Mommy died too. He stopped doing everything fun. He stopped smiling. He stopped singing. Then you came, and he was happy again. Really happy. And now he is scared again." "Yeah, but that does not mean he should give up. You do not give up on people just because you are scared." Victoria closed her eyes. Wisdom from a 7-year-old. Wisdom she should have listened to weeks ago. "Lily, I am going to fix this. I promise." "You will?" "Yes, sweetheart, I will." "Good." Lily's voice brightened. "Because I have a school play tomorrow, and Daddy forgot to buy tickets, and I really, really want you to be there." "I will be there," Victoria said. Front row. You promise? I promise. After they hung up, Victoria sat in silence for a long moment. Then she picked up the phone and called her assistant. Clear my schedule tomorrow. All of it. Miss Langford, is everything okay? I have somewhere important to be. Victoria Langford had made a lot of speeches in her career. Board presentations, shareholder meetings, industry conferences, TED Talks. She had spoken to thousands of people without breaking a sweat. But this was different. This time, she was not speaking to investors or executives. She was speaking to the world, and she was telling the truth. The press conference had been hastily arranged. Her PR team had nearly had a collective heart attack when she had told them what she planned to do. You want to make a public statement about your personal life? Her publicist had looked at her like she had grown a second head. Yes, Victoria, with all due respect, this could be career suicide. The stock, I do not care about the stock. And she did not. For the first time in 10 years, she did not care about any of it. The company could survive without her, but she could not survive without Ethan, without Lily, without the family they had started to build. She stood at the podium now, looking out at the sea of reporters and cameras. Flashes went off like lightning. Questions were shouted before she had even begun. She held up a hand, and the room fell silent. Thank you for coming, she began, her voice steady. I know you were expecting an announcement about Langford Technologies. This is not that. This is personal. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I am sure you have all seen the tabloid stories over the past few weeks. The photographs, the headlines, the speculation. She paused. I am here to address them. Not because I owe anyone an explanation, but because there is someone who needs to hear what I have to say. She took a breath. Yes, I am in love with Ethan Brooks, a warehouse supervisor, a single father, a man who works double shifts to provide for his daughter and still has time to sing her lullabies every night. The room was utterly silent now. The tabloids call him nobody. They laugh at him. They mock his job, his house, his truck. They say I can do better. Her voice hardened. They are wrong. Ethan Brooks is not nobody. He is the first person in a decade who looked at me and saw something other than a bank account. He runs through snowstorms to keep his promises. He teaches his daughter that kindness matters more than wealth. He gave me his jacket when I was cold, even though he was embarrassed by it. She felt tears threatening, but she pushed through. That is not a nobody. That is the kind of man I have been searching for my entire life. That is the kind of man who makes me want to be better than I am. She looked directly into the cameras. Ethan, if you are watching this, I know you think you are protecting me. I know you think I would be better off without you, but you are wrong. I do not need you to give me anything. I do not need your money or your status or your pedigree. I just need you. Her voice cracked. I love you. I love Lily. I love the life we were building together. And if loving you costs me this company, this reputation, these headlines, then so be it. Some things are worth more than stock prices. She stepped back from the podium. That is all I have to say. Thank you. The room exploded. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, her PR team looking like they might faint. But Victoria did not care. She walked out of the press room and did not look back. Within hours, the video had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments. This is the most romantic thing I have ever seen. She is right. Love matters more than money. I am not crying, you are crying. This man is the luckiest guy on earth. Even the board softened. The major investor who had threatened to pull out called personally. I was wrong, he said. You are exactly the kind of leader we need. Someone with conviction, someone who knows what matters. But Victoria did not care about any of that. She only cared about one thing. Tomorrow's school play. The elementary school auditorium was packed. Parents and grandparents filled the rows, armed with cameras and proud smiles. Children peeked through the curtains, nervously adjusting their costumes. Ethan sat in the third row, alone. He had not known about the play until that morning, when Lily had mentioned it at breakfast. My play is tonight, Daddy. You are coming, right? He had felt like the worst father in the world. How had he forgotten? How had he let his own heartbreak overshadow his daughter's life? Of course, baby, I will be there. Front row? He had tried to get front row tickets, but they were sold out. Had been for weeks. The best he could manage was third row, off to the side. But he was here. That was what mattered. The lights dimmed, the curtain rose. And then someone slipped into the empty seat beside him. This seat taken? Ethan's heart stopped. Victoria. She was dressed simply, jeans, a soft sweater, but she had never looked more beautiful. Her eyes were red-rimmed, like she had been crying. But she was smiling. What? His voice would not work. How? Lily called me, she whispered. She said you forgot to buy tickets. She wanted me here. I saw the press conference. Good. I meant every word. Victoria. Shh, the play is starting. They watched in silence as the children performed. It was a Christmas pageant, simple and sweet. Lily had a small role, one of the horses in the manger scene, but she threw herself into it with everything she had. When she spotted Victoria in the audience, her whole face transformed. She waved enthusiastically, right in the middle of her scene, and the audience chuckled. Victoria waved back. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest, something he had been holding together with sheer force of will. Their hands found each other in the darkness. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them needed to. After the play, Lilai came running through the crowd, still in her horse costume. Miss Victoria, you came! You came! She threw herself into Victoria's arms, and Victoria held her tight. I promised, did I not? You promised. Lily pulled back, her eyes bright. Daddy, please do not make her leave again, please. Ethan knelt down to his daughter's level. I will not, baby. I promise. Cross your heart? Cross my heart. Lily hugged them both, one arm around Ethan's neck, one around Victoria's. I knew you would come back, she whispered. I knew it. Later, while Mrs. Patterson took Lily for ice cream to celebrate her debut performance, Ethan and Victoria stood in the empty parking lot. I saw the press conference, he said again. You mentioned that. You risked everything. You are worth the risk. She stepped closer. You always were. I was trying to protect you. I do not need protection. I need partnership. He took her face in his hands, looking into her eyes. I am sorry, he said. I am so sorry. I will not run again. I promise. Cross your heart? He smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Cross my heart. And then he kissed her, right there in the school parking lot, under the stars, with snow just beginning to fall. It felt like coming home. 6 months later, on Christmas Eve, Ethan's small house had never looked better. The tree was decorated with Lily's handmade ornaments, lopsided stars and paper chains, and a cardboard angel that had seen better days. Lights twinkled in the windows. The smell of cookies filled the air. Victoria had spent more nights here than at her penthouse over the past 6 months. She had grown to love this small house with its creaky floors and drafty windows. It was alive in a way her expensive apartment never had been. Tonight, she was wearing an apron, helping Lily put frosting on sugar cookies. Flour dusted her cheek. Her hair was escaping from its ponytail. She was laughing at something Lily had said. Ethan watched them from the doorway, his heart so full it hurt. Daddy, come help, Lily demanded. We need more green frosting. In a minute, sweetheart. He had been carrying the ring in his pocket for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. He had looked at it so many times the box was wearing at the edges. After Lily went to bed, a battle, given her excitement about Santa, Ethan and Victoria sat together on the couch. The fire crackled. The Christmas lights twinkled. Outside, snow was falling softly. This is nice, Victoria said, leaning into him. Yeah. I never had Christmases like this growing up. It was always formal dinners and expensive gifts. Never. She gestured at the homemade ornaments, the plate of misshapen cookies. Never this. This is better? This is everything. Ethan's heart was pounding. Now. It had to be now. He stood up, and Victoria looked at him curiously. Ethan, what is wrong? Nothing is wrong. His voice was shaking. There is something I need to say. He got down on one knee. Victoria's hand flew to her mouth. I do not have much, Ethan began. I cannot give you penthouses or private jets. I cannot take you to fancy restaurants or buy you expensive gifts. Ethan, but I can give you this. He pulled out the ring box. A home where you are loved, a daughter who adores you, a man who will never stop showing up, a family that chose you not because of what you have, but because of who you are. He opened the box. The ring was simple, not a diamond, but a sapphire surrounded by tiny pearls. He had remembered her mentioning once that her mother's favorite stone had been sapphire. Victoria Langford, will you marry me? She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. But she was also smiling, the biggest, brightest smile he had ever seen. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and then she was in his arms, and they were both crying and laughing and holding each other like they would never let go. I love you, she said against his lips. I love you so much. I love you too, forever. Promise? Cross my heart. A small voice came from the doorway. Did she say yes? They turned to find Lily standing there in her pajamas. Starlight, the stuffed horse, clutched in her arms, her eyes wide with hope. She said, yes, baby. Lily let out a shriek that probably woke the neighbors and launched herself at them both. Does this mean you will be my mom now? She asked Victoria. Victoria was crying again. If you will have me, I have been waiting forever for you to ask. They held each other, the three of them, in front of the Christmas tree. Snow falling outside, fire crackling, the whole world feeling right for the first time in years. They did not want a big wedding, no grand ballroom, no hundreds of guests, no coverage in the society pages. Instead, they were married in Ethan's backyard on a perfect spring day. The ceremony was small, just close friends and family. Caroline was there, crying happy tears and taking full credit for everything. Mrs. Patterson sat in the front row, clutching a handkerchief. A few of Ethan's coworkers came, along with a handful of Victoria's true friends, the ones who had known her before she was a billionaire. Lily was the flower girl. She took her job very seriously, walking down the makeshift aisle with intense concentration, dropping petals in a perfect line. She wore a white dress with a pink sash. And Starlight, the horse, was tucked under one arm. When she reached the front, she turned to the assembled guests and made an announcement. You can all sit down now. The important part is about to happen. Everyone laughed. Victoria walked down the aisle alone. She had no father to give her away, no family left to lean on. But she did not need anyone. She walked with her head high and her eyes fixed on Ethan, and she had never looked more beautiful. The vows were simple. Victoria, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion, you saw me when I felt invisible. You stayed when I pushed you away. You became a mother to my daughter without anyone asking you to. I spent so long thinking I was not enough. You showed me I was wrong. I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you the same. Ethan, Victoria said, tears streaming freely now. You showed me that home is not a penthouse with a view. It is wherever the people you love are. You gave me a family when I thought I had lost that forever. I promise to choose you every single day, in the good times and the hard ones. Thank you for letting me belong somewhere. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Lily cheered so loudly that birds flew out of the nearby trees. The reception was held in the same backyard. Folding tables and fairy lights, homemade food and store-bought cake, dancing on the grass in bare feet. It was perfect. At some point in the evening, Lily climbed onto a chair and demanded everyone's attention. I want to make a speech, she announced. The adults exchanged amused glances, but no one stopped her. Miss Victoria came to dinner one day, Lily said solemnly, and she never really left. At first, I did not know if I liked her. She burned the cookies. She paused for dramatic effect. But then she helped me with my homework, and she read me stories with funny voices, and she made Daddy smile again. He had not really smiled since Mommy died, but Victoria made him smile. She looked at Victoria, her eyes bright. I am really glad you are my mom now, and I am really glad Daddy stopped being scared, and I am really glad we are a family. She climbed down from the chair and ran to hug them both. There was not a dry eye in the backyard. 2 years later, on a sunny Sunday morning, the Brooks household was in its usual state of cheerful chaos. Victoria, now Victoria Brooks, though she had kept Langford professionally, had restructured her role at the company. Still CEO, but with better work-life balance. She had learned that she did not have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Her worth was not measured in quarterly reports. Ethan had been promoted to warehouse manager and was taking night classes in business. His choice, not hers. She had offered to help, but He had wanted to do it himself, to prove that he could. She loved him for that. Lily was 9 now, thriving in school, still obsessed with horses, still serving as the self-appointed director of their household. "Daddy is burning the pancakes again," she announced from the kitchen table. "I am not burning them," Ethan protested. "They are just, well done." "They are black, Dad." Victoria laughed, not looking up from her newspaper. "She is right, you know. Traitor. I call it like I see it." Lily grinned. "Mom always takes my side. Mom." The word still made Victoria's heart swell every time she heard it. She had never expected to have this, never dared to hope for it. And yet, here she was, sitting in a small kitchen in a modest house that had been renovated just enough. They had kept the character, just fixed the leaks, reading the Sunday paper while her husband burned pancakes and her daughter teased him about it. It was ordinary, beautiful, home. Later, after breakfast and dishes and a spirited debate about whether they should get a dog, Victoria found herself alone in the living room. Her eyes drifted to the framed photo on the mantel, their wedding picture, the three of them laughing, Lily squished between them with frosting on her nose from the cake. Next to it was another photo. Sarah. They had kept her picture in a place of honor. Lily deserved to know her mother. And Victoria had never felt threatened by Sarah's memory. If anything, she felt grateful. Sarah had given Ethan the capacity to love, had given Lily the foundation that made her so remarkable. Victoria touched the frame gently. "Thank you," she whispered. "For him, for her, for all of it." The front door banged open. "Mom, Dad says we can look at dogs today. Come on." Victoria smiled, took one last look at Sarah's photo, and went to join her family. Some things, she thought, were worth waiting for. Some things were worth fighting for. And some things, the best things, found you when you least expected them. Like a snowy night in a restaurant when a man in work boots showed up 47 minutes late and changed her life forever. Friends, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, if it reminded you that love does not care about bank accounts or social status, please do not just watch and walk away. Hit that subscribe button and join our channel for more heartwarming tales. Drop a heart in the comments if you believe everyone deserves a second chance at love. And share this story with someone who needs to remember that the right person will see you for who you are, not what you have. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.